going to talk about Informatica Debugger. As you see here, this is the Informatica mapping. We have opened in Informatica Power Center Designer. Now, what is a debugger and how it functions? Let us understand that first. Debugger is a utility given by Informatica to basically debug the values that goes from source to the target. So as the name suggests, it is meant for checking or debugging any kind of data that is in process of movement between the source to the target. It is very useful at the time when we want to see the particular record has got loaded, or if there is, for example, some missing of records happens at the target end, that is when the data gets successfully loaded and we find that few records have not got loaded. What exactly is the reason for that? Why? Because when the mapping runs in Informatica using integration service, the huge amount of data gets loaded from source to the target. Now during this process, if by any chance some records gets missed, then we need to find out the sequence which was going while the records were getting loaded and where did that break occur due to which the particular records got missed getting loaded into the target. So to find all this information and the data, we use this utility called as debugger. Now let us see how we open and run the debugger and how we check the data of source and the target. So here you see this is the designer window. First what you have to do is go in this mappings menu and go here on debugger and say start debugger. As you say this, then this new pop-up will appear saying debug mapping. Click next and here you see what kind of session you want to choose. It is showing one integration service already in the box. Now either you can use an existing session. As we discussed in our previous videos, a session is always required to run a mapping. Now because this debugging is also the running of mapping that we are going to do, so we need some session for this. Either we can use an existing one or we can use a reusable one, or a debug session can be created by Informatica. In this case, let us proceed with the debug session instance, which Informatica is going to create only for the purpose of debugging. So here it is asking us what source table and what target table. This already we have configured the source and targets in our mapping. So we just click next and we again click next, and this default session config is some kind of configuration that it is trying to just store for the purpose of a debugging session. Finally, it is asking whether you want to discard the target data or you want to keep it. So it is just we can leave it as it is. So the data that is actually getting created in the target during the debugging, that will get discarded if we keep it clicked. We click the finish button here and we see now that two different windows are made here. One is target instance and another is source instance. Let us just try to pull this right here so that it is more clear. Now in this source instance, we select the source qualifier, that is sqvemp, and in the target we select vemp target. And now we go on mappings again and we start debugging, that is we click next instance. We can click F10 also and we can click the next instance. Here as we see the first instance, it is showing that in the source this is the first value of this table vemp, employee number 37369, emp name Smith, job is clerk. If we now click F10, this value as it is, the previous value got loaded here in the target. It is saying row type as insert, employee number 7369, and that whole value got loaded. So it's actually not getting loaded, it's just it is debugging here, it is showing the instance to us. So now if we press F10 again, this source will go to the next value and the previous value will get again loaded into the target. 7499 Alan Salesman. As we keep on pressing F10, or we can go here on the mapping and keep clicking this link, in next instance it is going to keep showing this value of the source into the target. So this is how we come to know that whether all the records one by one are going into the target or not. If there is any kind of missing value where the Informatica is getting stuck, or there is a break in the loading of records, the movement of that particular record, then that record we will not be able to see here in the target after we click the next instance. This is how simply the debugger works. Also, in the debugger we can actually define a breakpoint. Breakpoint is nothing but a kind of condition that we put during the debugging session just to jump directly to a record which we want to find. For example, if we find that in the target table there is a record that has got missed and we were expecting that record to get loaded, so we can actually directly jump to that record by putting some kind of a condition. Let us see how we do that. First, let's stop this debugger here. I'm going to shut this down, and let's close this. And now we go on mappings, go on debugger, and click on this edit breakpoints. In this edit breakpoints, again it is showing the instance name, which is fine, sqvemp. We add a breakpoint of sqvemp. It is adding here with some values, and we create a condition. We can create any kind of condition. Let's say we create a condition of salary. Now these are all the columns of that table, the source table. We create a condition saying salary is equal to, we give it a value. What value? We can actually select any of the values of the table. Now if this is the target table, as you see in Toad vemp, here this is the 15 rows data in this table. I say I want to debug this particular value, that is salary equal to 5000. I want to debug this row, this whole row. How do I do this? So I just go here and I put here the value as 5000, and I click OK. Now that edit breakpoint has got saved. Now I once again start the debugger just the same way as I did before. By clicking next again, it will finally show the debugging windows, that is source window and the target window. So all of it has been started, and now I again try to pull it in such a way so that data is clearly visible. Now again I select this, I select the target, and instead of clicking next instance here, I click continue. With continue, it will directly jump to that value where I selected that condition, salary equal to 5000. So as you see, now this it did not really go on the first record, it directly came on this record. So this is how we debug the particular values and see whether the successful loading of data is happening or not. This was about the debugger session.